There are places on Earth that most people will never reach, not because they do not want to, but because getting there is genuinely, specifically, sometimes legally impossible. This video looks at 5 of them. A government order that has stood for 8 centuries. A war zone with a vertical shaft at its center that has no oxygen at the bottom. 8 months of darkness and cold that destroy aircraft engines. 60 miles of jungle where the world's longest highway never arrived. And a plateau sealed by vertical rock walls that rise 1,000 meters from the floor of a rainforest. Each one of these places is unreachable for a completely different reason. The first place is a mountain in Mongolia called Burkhan Khaldun. It stands 2,362 meters tall in the Khenti Mountains, about 240 kilometers from the capital Ulaanbaatar. Getting there is not the hard part. The mountain is not particularly remote. The approach is a drive across open grassland followed by a walk through dense forest. Brown bears, wolves, snow leopards, and red deer move through the trees on the lower slopes. The rivers that begin here drain toward both the Pacific and the Arctic Oceans. Burkhan Khaldun sits at the exact point where 2 of the world's great drainage systems begin, making it ecologically unique even before its history is considered. But none of that is why it appears on this list. The problem is the summit. A presidential decree backed by national law makes it illegal for anyone to climb to the top. The mountain is believed to be the birthplace and burial place of Genghis Khan, the founder of the largest land empire in history. He declared it sacred in the 13th century and ordered it to remain completely undisturbed after his death. That order has now held for 800 years. UNESCO named the entire area a World Heritage Site in 2015. The sacred stone cairn at the summit is visited only during an official state ceremony. Violating the decree results in fines, expulsion from Mongolia, and prosecution. One odd fact about Burkhan Khaldun: this ban has been in place longer than most countries on Earth have existed. The United States, Australia, and most of modern Europe all came into existence centuries after Genghis Khan gave this order. The mountain is there, the path is there, the summit belongs to no one. From a mountain no one is allowed to climb, to a hole in the ground that almost no one can reach. The Well of Barhout sits in the desert of eastern Yemen, near the Omani border. Locals call it the Well of Hell. It is a natural sinkhole, a circular shaft in the earth, 30 meters wide at the surface, dropping 112 meters straight down through 2 layers of ancient rock. The shaft widens to 120 meters before it reaches the bottom. For a long time, nobody could see inside it. Drones sent down lost their signal almost immediately because of a magnetic field inside the shaft. The air rising from below carries a strange, unidentified smell that has never been explained. Yemeni officials publicly admitted they had no idea what was at the bottom. In September 2021, a team of Omani cave explorers became the first to descend to the floor. They found snakes, waterfalls, cave pearls, dead birds, and animal remains. The descent and return took almost a full day. The explorers described the floor as a completely separate world, sealed, ancient, and nothing like the desert surface 112 meters above it. Below 50 meters, oxygen drops so low that survival without specialist breathing equipment is not possible. But the biggest barrier is not the hole. It is Yemen. The country has been in a severe and ongoing conflict for years. There's no safe overland route, no functioning national infrastructure, and no emergency services anywhere near Al-Mahara province. The Well of Barhout exists in a dangerous country to enter, long before the shaft becomes relevant. From a desert war zone to the coldest place where human beings permanently live, the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station sits exactly at 90 degrees south of the geographic South Pole, on top of an ice sheet nearly 2,700 meters thick. The station stands at 2,835 meters above sea level. The station was first established in 1956 during the International Geophysical Year and has been permanently occupied ever since, including through some of the most extreme winters ever recorded. For 8 months of every year from February to October, it is completely cut off from the rest of the world. There are no flights, no ships, no roads. In winter, temperatures average minus 49 degrees Celsius and drop below minus 80. At those temperatures, aviation fuel turns to gel, and aircraft engines fail on contact with the cold. Nobody flies to the South Pole in winter, not for any reason and not in any emergency. Anyone at the station, when winter closes in, stays there until summer returns. There's no extraction of any kind. Before anyone is permitted to travel there, they must pass a full medical and dental examination, because the nearest hospital is hours away by air and unreachable in winter. Around 50 people overwinter at the station each year. The landscape around them is completely flat, completely white, and completely silent. No animals live at 90 degrees south, no plants grow there, no sound travels across the surface except the wind. For 8 months of every year, the South Pole is simply beyond reach. From the coldest place on Earth to the one gap in a road that runs across 2 entire continents. The Pan American Highway stretches from Prudhoe Bay in Alaska all the way south to Ushuaia, at the tip of Argentina, the longest road network on Earth. But on the border between Panama and Colombia, there's a 97-kilometer section where the road simply does not exist. This is the Darien Gap. No road has ever been built through it. No bridge crosses its rivers. Nothing connects the 2 halves of the American continent through this stretch of terrain. The gap is not just a missing road, it is the only break in a highway system that, if completed, would allow someone to drive in a single vehicle from the Arctic to the southern tip of South America. The gap is dense primary rainforest, thick jungle with no trails, rivers with no crossings, and mountain ridges that disappear into the clouds. In the wet season, the ground turns to deep mud, and movement on foot becomes nearly impossible. Jaguars roam the forest floor. Harpy eagles, among the most powerful birds of prey on Earth, nest in the canopy. The indigenous Mbeera and Wonan communities have lived inside the Darien for centuries and know its rivers and forest paths in ways no outsider does. For everyone else, crossing without expert local guidance is extremely dangerous. Armed criminal organizations operate throughout the interior. Proposals to build a road have been made formally since the 1970s and blocked every single time by engineering cost, by environmental objections, and by political disagreement between Panama and Colombia that remains unresolved today. The highway ends at the tree line. For 97 kilometers, the Americas are not connected. One question worth sitting with. In 1914, engineers successfully cut the Panama Canal through solid rock and jungle. Yet until today, nobody has managed to build a simple 97-kilometer road right next door. The last place on this list can be reached, but only part of it. The Tepuis of Venezuela are enormous ancient table mountains that rise from the rainforest in the southeast of the country. Their sides are vertical in places over 1,000 meters of sheer sandstone cliff, going straight up from the jungle floor to a completely flat plateau on top. The word Tepui comes from the Pemon language of the indigenous people of the Grand Sabana. It means simply house of the gods. There's only one Tepui summit in the entire system that a regular hiker can reach without climbing equipment. That is Mount Roraima, through a natural break in the cliff called the Ramp. After a 6 to 9 day trek through rainforest from the Piman village of Parai Tepui. Every other Tepui summit requires full technical rock climbing up sheer vertical walls. Most formations have no established routes at all. Auyan Tepui, the largest Tepui, covering 700 square kilometers, roughly twice the size of Singapore, is the source of Angel Falls, the tallest uninterrupted waterfall on Earth at 979 meters. There is no trail to its summit. The only way to see it is by small charter aircraft to the village of Canaima, then a motorized canoe trip upriver. The plateaus on top have been cut off from the jungle below for around 70 million years. The plants and animals living up there are found nowhere else on Earth. The Tepuis are not impossible. They're just built to make it feel that way. If you want to know more about the geology, the wildlife, and what it actually takes to stand on top, check our dedicated Tepui video here.